Okay, so are you ready to dive into some serious Hamptons drama?
Always.
Because things are about to get juicy. We're breaking down the latest episode of The Real Housewives of New York City with this article from the Daily Beast. And let me tell you, it sounds like this season is going to be explosive.
Oh, from what I've heard, the drama is just getting started. This episode is like a master class in group dynamics, especially when you've got these big personalities all trying to figure out their place in the pecking order.
Right. Like the article calls this Hamptons trip a work retreat with people you like casually.
Interesting.
Have you ever been in one of those situations where you're trying to be friends, but there's also this underlying tension?
Oh, absolutely. It's like that awkward dance between wanting to let loose and knowing you're constantly being judged. And this episode captures that perfectly. You can practically see these women tiptoeing around each other, trying to figure out who they can trust, who they can't, and how far they can push things.
Totally. It's like they're all playing a game of social chess, but the stakes are way higher than just bragging rights. And speaking of high stakes, can we talk about Ubah for a second?
Oh, where do we even begin with Yuba?
She is a force of nature. While everyone else is busy with these passive-aggressive maneuvers, she is calling people out left and right. The article even says she's the only one willing to fight face-to-face. What do you make of her approach?
Well, you often see this in reality TV, right?
Yeah.
You've got the agent of chaos, the one who shakes things up and exposes all the hidden tensions.
Right.
And Yuba's definitely playing that role here. But what's interesting is how she's challenging the unspoken rules of this group, this whole culture of veiled jabs and maintaining a facade. She's like, nope, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about it now. It's refreshing in a way, but also a recipe for disaster.
Totally. Because on the one hand, her directness might force some much-needed honesty, but on the other hand, it could backfire spectacularly, especially if some of the other women see it as an attack. And speaking of attacks, can we talk about Brynn and Sai?
Oh boy, here we go.
This whole does she like me or doesn't she drama is giving me major middle school flashbacks.
Right. You can tell there's some history there, some unresolved tension that's bubbling to the surface. And instead of addressing it directly, they've pulled Yuba into this weird triangle of passive aggression.
Oh, absolutely. It's classic proxy war territory. They're using Ubah as a go-between to avoid any real confrontation.
Exactly. They can maintain their image while also trying to undermine the other.
It's honestly exhausting just watching it unfold.
And we haven't even gotten to Jenna yet.
Oh, Jenna, she's like a free agent in all of this, seemingly above the drama. The article even mentioned she got caught in a little white lie and everyone just brushed it off.
Jenna is a fascinating character to me. It's like she's observing this whole social experiment from a safe distance, or maybe she's just really good at playing the game.
It's true. Maybe she's biding her time, waiting for the perfect moment to make her move.
Wouldn't that be something?
It's so interesting how differently people handle those kinds of situations. You know,
Totally.
like we've got Sai's little digs, Brynn, and her whole trying to be sweet thing.
Yeah.
And then you've got Ubah, who's just like, I'm gonna say it to your face.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, what's the best way to actually deal with that kind of thing?
You know, it's one of those things where I don't think there's one right answer, unfortunately.
Right.
Like sometimes being direct is good, but then sometimes that can totally blow up in your face.
Totally.
And then being more indirect, well, that can feel safer for a bit, but then it can build up to this whole other thing.
Definitely. Oh. You know what this reminds me of? It's like choosing between using a Band-Aid and getting stitches.
Okay, yeah.
Like, they both have their pros and cons, and it really depends on the situation.
Exactly. And then on top of that, what works for one person might not work at all for someone else.
Totally. Like, some personalities are just more sensitive, like you don't want to go in too hot.
Yeah, it's like that car ride from the beginning of the episode, remember? With Ubah, Sai, and Raquel.
Oh, yeah. That whole thing about who was driving to the Hamptons?
It just felt so awkward. And it seemed like it was about way more than just driving, you know?
Oh, absolutely. It felt very loaded, like there were all these unspoken rules and power dynamics at play.
Yes. And poor Raquel, she's so new to the group.
Right.
She wants to drive, which is nice of her, but then she's also obviously a little unsure about overstepping.
It's like she's trying to figure out the rules of a game that no one told her how to play.
Exactly. And then you've got Sai and Yuba both saying no to Raquel driving, but not really saying why.
Right.
So it just leaves Raquel kind of hanging, wondering what that all means.
Ugh, just makes me cringe thinking about it. All that tension in one car ride.
And to make things worse, then Aaron told Sai and Yuba that Raquel felt weird about it.
Of course, there's always got to be that one person, right?
Always.
But it wasn't all drama the whole time, right?
True. True.
There were some really sweet moments, like when they all had dinner together and were sharing stories about their lives. It kind of reminded you that they are actual people, you know?
I totally agree. It's easy to forget sometimes that these women have lives and experiences that go beyond the show. And hearing those stories, it really humanizes them.
Yes, it's like a little peek behind the curtain into their real selves. What story stood out to you?
Raquel's engagement story, I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, yeah, how she and Mel met, right?
Yes. I don't know. I felt like there was something more to that story. Like the article mentioned that he was a little scandalous.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that she called her engagement ring gaudy and gauche,
Oh, wow.
which I have to admit I kind of loved.
Totally. It's like she's kind of leaning into this whole housewife persona, but also not taking herself too seriously.
Exactly.
And that whole thing with the safe word, too.
Oh, yeah. Pineapple.
Like, what even is that? It just seems so random.
Right. It's actually kind of brilliant, though, isn't it?
I guess so.
Even with all the drama, they still have these inside jokes and moments that are just for them.
I guess, yeah. It is kind of sweet when you think about it like that. But even with those moments, there was still so much tension.
Oh, yeah.
It makes you wonder how they're even going to move forward from this trip. So we've got all these different personalities, different ways of dealing with conflict. It's a lot. What really stood out to you in this episode?
You know, for me, it was that push and pull between being real and putting on a show.
Right.
Like they're trying to navigate actual friendships, but then they always know the cameras are there watching everything.
Totally. It's like they're always aware of their audience, you know? So how much is real and how much is, well,
Performance.
exactly. And that's what makes it so compelling to watch.
It really is.
And because will they crack under the pressure? Will we see some real breakdowns? Or will they just keep playing the game?
Right. And if they do keep playing it, how long can that last?
Exactly. Oh. And we haven't even talked about that final scene with Ubah finally confronting Brynn.
Oh, yeah, the insults were flying.
I know. You could just feel the tension.
That confrontation felt inevitable, though, don't you think? Like it was only a matter of time.
Definitely. They're like oil and water, those two.
And Sai is right in the middle of it all, too.
Oh, for sure. She is loving this. Okay, so last question. Who do you think ultimately comes out on top?
Honestly, I have no idea. That's what's so great about this show. You just never know what's going to happen next.
That's true.
But it makes you think, will this whole Hamptons trip actually change things for them?
Oh, good question. Like, will they actually deal with this stuff and maybe come out stronger?
Or will it just push them further apart?
Ugh, so many questions. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But one thing's for sure, this season of The Real Housewives of New York is definitely delivering the drama.
Absolutely.
Until next time, everyone, keep your frenemies close and maybe have your own safe word ready, just in case.